In India's media imagination, stories often flow outward, from big cities, big studios, big voices. We are taught almost unconsciously that importance comes from distance, that a story matters more the farther it travels from home. But far away from Mumbai's film sets and Delhi's newsrooms, in the hills and towns of Nagaland, a different kind of storytelling has been quietly unfolding. No large production houses, no primetime debates, just a small group of local artists, a camera, and a deep understanding of their own society. They call themselves Dreamz Unlimited. What began as theater, what grew into comedy sketches, has now become something far more powerful. A grassroots media movement that makes people laugh, and then pause, and then ask uncomfortable questions. Not about them, but about themselves. This is the story of how local creators are shaping local conversations and why their work matters far beyond Nagaland. Segment 1. Origins, theater before YouTube. Dreamz Unlimited did not begin on YouTube. They began on stage. Formed in 2008 in Dimapur, the group started as a theater and film collective, performing plays, experimenting with short films, and engaging audiences face-to-face. Theater teaches discipline, timing, observation. But more than that, it teaches one crucial skill: to listen before speaking, to understand people before portraying them. When Dreamz Unlimited uploaded their first YouTube video in 2016, they carried this instinct with them. Within a short span, their content struck a chord. By 2018, they became Nagaland's first YouTube channel to cross 100,000 subscribers, one of the earliest from the entire Northeast to do so. But numbers alone don't explain their rise. What mattered was recognition. People saw themselves on screen, their accents, their habits, their frustrations, their contradictions. For many young Nagas, Dreamz Unlimited didn't feel like content. It felt like being seen without being judged. Segment 2. Comedy as social commentary. At first glance, their videos look simple: short sketches, relatable humor, everyday situations. But look closer. Take O Nagaland Roads. It's funny because it's painfully familiar. Potholes, delays, frustration. But beneath the laughter sits a sharper question. Why have we learned to laugh at problems we should be demanding answers for? Or serious unemployment problem? Instead of blaming only the system, the sketch turns the camera back towards society itself. Our ideas of dignity, our fear of certain kinds of work, our dependence on a single definition of success. This is where Dreamz Unlimited's work becomes quietly radical. They don't shout, they don't accuse, they let humor do the disarming, and truth do the work afterward. Their videos on waste management, civic sense, associations, and social media behavior follow the same pattern. Recognizable characters, exaggerated truths, and conversations that continue long after the video ends. In homes, in churches, in WhatsApp groups, in tea stalls. Long before policy debates, these sketches become a people's mirror. Segment 3. Speaking from within, not above. One reason Dreamz Unlimited resonates so deeply is simple. They are not outsiders analyzing Nagaland. They are insiders living it. They laugh with the community, not at it. Their satire is gentle, but never hollow. They touch sensitive topics, church politics, discrimination, fake news, social hypocrisy, without losing empathy. That balance is rare. In regions often misunderstood or reduced to headlines, this kind of self-representation becomes an act of dignity. Dreamz Unlimited tells Nagaland's story in Nagaland's own voice, not polished for outsiders, but honest for insiders. And honesty, when it comes from within, has a way of staying longer. Segment 4, From Sketches to Cinema, The Missing Tourist. Then came a turning point. In 2025, Dreamz Unlimited stepped into long-form storytelling with a feature-length travel adventure film, The Missing Tourist. On the surface, it's a mystery. A tourist disappears, but the real story lies in the journey. As the narrative unfolds, the film quietly showcases Nagaland's lesser-known villages, landscapes, cultures, and people, not as scenery but as living participants. Launched in collaboration with the government of Nagaland, the film marked a shift in how tourism could be imagined, not through brochures, not through slogans, but through story. For a state often flattened into stereotypes, this approach sends a powerful message. When you tell your own stories well, you don't need permission to be discovered. Segment 5, Quiet Impact, Long Shadows. The impact of Dreamz Unlimited doesn't always show up in charts or headlines. It shows up elsewhere. In youth meetings where their sketches spark discussion. In church circles where humor opens difficult conversations. In awareness campaigns, from clean elections to child labor, where entertainment becomes education without losing its humanity. Beyond screens, they conduct theater workshops, mentor young performers, and nurture local talent. In doing so, they offer something rare in smaller states: a reason to stay, a reason to believe that creativity has dignity, that storytelling can be work, not just a hobby. Segment 6, Why the Story Matters. When we talk about development, we talk about roads, jobs, and institutions. But culture shapes behavior long before policy does. Dreamz Unlimited works in that cultural space where attitudes form, where norms are questioned, where change begins quietly. They remind us that grassroots change doesn't always look like protest. Sometimes it looks like a joke that lands too close to home. Sometimes it looks like a story that makes you uncomfortable and then gently invites you to do better. And in a country as diverse as India, the future of storytelling cannot belong only to metros. It belongs to anyone willing to tell the truth about where they come from. Closing, a salute and a question. This episode of the Grassroots Lens is a salute to Dreamz Unlimited and to every local creator using a camera as a tool for reflection, dignity, and change. But it's also a question for you. If you're from Nagaland or the Northeast, ask yourself, which Dreamz Unlimited video stayed with you the longest? And if you're from elsewhere, who is telling your community's story and who isn't? Support grassroots voices, support local storytelling. And if you want more stories like this, from small places shaping big conversations, subscribe to the Grassroots Lens. Because forests don't grow overnight. They grow tree by tree, story by story.